My name is Hillary Whitmore. I'm 32, and I manage digital projects for a living, the kind of job people nod at without really understanding. Tonight was supposed to be simple: a birthday dinner, white linen, warm light, a table that made the room look kinder than it really was. The host led me past the bar and sat me before a supermarket bouquet pretending to be elegant. From across the table, my mother lifted her chin and smiled in that careful way she saves for public places. "You look very put together," she said, already scanning. "New shapewear?" Before I could answer, my sister Sloane clinked her glass like she was toasting a promotion she hadn't earned. To Hillary, finally getting her life in order. A few cousins laughed. Brad, her husband, leaned back as if the chair owed him applause. "Didn't know your little computer gig paid for restaurants like this," he said, eyes on the menu but voice aimed at me. I smiled the way I've practiced since childhood. Nothing to argue with, nothing to hold. The waiter placed water, refolded a napkin he decided I'd used incorrectly, and asked who would be ordering first. Sloane waved him off. "We're celebrating," she said, like she had planned the night herself. She hadn't. I had made the reservation, picked the room, even asked for dim lights. I wanted easy edges. The small talk came dressed like kindness and felt like sandpaper. Mom asked if I'd finally learned to budget. Sloane asked whether my freelance thing had real benefits. Brad wanted to know if I still used free software to run the whole operation. They grinned. I sipped water. I looked at the candles, at the soft gold washing the linen, at the bouquet trying its hardest to be more than it was. "Hillary," Mom said, lowering her voice, "this place is lovely. It must have stretched you." She squeezed my hand like a warning. "Smile. Be grateful. Don't make it weird." "I'm doing fine," I said. Sloane tilted her head. "Well, tonight you look like you are." The waiter returned with a single slice of cheesecake he said he could candle later, if the party wanted. I had called ahead and asked them to, just in case. Insurance against the kind of family that forgets cards and remembers checks. "Make it pretty," Sloane told him, like I was her project. I breathed in the perfume of vanilla and citrus and tried to believe the room. For 20 minutes it almost worked. The laughter softened. The air felt friendly. Even I believed the lie that we were the kind of family that knows how to celebrate without keeping score. Then a voice cleared to my left, a child's voice too sure for his age. And the room, my room, shifted. "Before I tell you what my nephew said next, I want to know where you're watching from. Tell me in the comments." Miles cleared his throat like an announcer who'd waited his whole life for a microphone. "I'll have the steak," he told the waiter without looking at the menu. "The $30 one." Sloane smiled as if he'd solved a math problem. Brad smirked at me, then at my shoes. Miles leaned over, eyes bright. "Dad says those are fake, like you." It landed fast and hard, the way a door slams in wind. Before I could find a word, his hand tipped his soda. The glass went over, ice and syrup racing down leather and onto the floor. The sound it made, sharp, spilling, final, was louder than the laughter that followed, but not by much. Sloane threw her head back. Brad slapped the table, delighted at his own echo. Mom's mouth made the shape of a scold, but the sound was a chuckle. "Kids," she said to the waiter, who had frozen mid-step, "they say the funniest things." The waiter reached for towels. I moved first. I set my napkin on the table, lifted my purse, and stood. My chair slid back with a clean scrape that stitched the room shut. No speech, no apology. I didn't give them the performance they wanted. I walked past the bar, past the host who lifted a concerned eyebrow, past the smiling couples who would tell the story later. Some woman left her own birthday dinner, and out into the crisp night. The door sighed behind me, and the city took me in. Street lights, a distant bus, the lemon tang of someone's cologne drifting by. I stopped under the awning and looked down at my shoes, shining with syrup and a few clinging cubes of ice. Hillary, her voice came soft from my right. Grandmother Evelyn stepped into the light like she'd been waiting for it. She looped her arm through mine, not to pull me back, but to steady us both. "Don't," I said. I didn't know what I was asking her not to do. Comfort me, defend me, turn me around. "I won't," she said, gentle but sure. "Let's walk." We moved along the block at her pace, small and certain. The restaurant's music thinned behind us and was replaced by the hum of traffic and a far-off siren. My shoes made a faint tack on the pavement with each step. We passed a boutique with a dark window full of glittering things that didn't sparkle without help. At the corner, she guided me to a bench under an outdoor heater. We sat. I pressed my lips together until I felt them steady. Syrup cooled on my ankle. No one came after us. Grandmother Evelyn looked straight ahead, gloved hands folded. "You have let them borrow your peace for too long," she said. No heat in it, just a fact placed carefully between us. "I didn't want a scene," I said. "You didn't make one. They did." She glanced at my shoes. "And they made sure there'd be proof on your feet." I laughed once, short and tired. "It was a child." "It was a chorus," she said. "He only sang the line he was given." We sat with the heater ticking above us, with the late hour getting later. I could have told her a lifetime of small things, remarks brushed off, favors done quietly, transfers made on firsts and 15ths. I didn't. The night had already said enough. Evelyn patted my arm. "Kindness has borders, dear. Ours were crossed the minute they laughed." The streetlight changed, washing the sidewalk a different kind of gold than the dining rooms. In the new color, the syrup looked like something else entirely. Evidence, not embarrassment. I breathed. The city breathed back. "Ready?" she asked. "Yes," I said, though I didn't yet know for what. I stood, the tack of my steps softer now, and we walked toward the corner. Behind us, the restaurant glowed the way it always would. Warm, flattering, a stage for people who hid meanness in a joke. Ahead, the night opened. At home, I towed my shoes off at the door, left them by the mat with their sticky shine, and went straight for the sink. Warm water, dish soap, a dish towel that used to be white. I worked at the syrup in small circles until the leather felt like itself again. Then I set them to dry and stared at them the way you look at something that has just told you the truth. I showered, braided my hair, and sat on the edge of my bed with my phone. The banking app opened in a familiar blue. Under transfers, there it was, $1,200, first of the month, set to repeat. 15 months of good intentions, emergencies that multiplied, promises that hid more promises. My finger hovered, then tapped edit, stop, confirm. A small line of text changed from scheduled to canceled. No confetti, no sound effect. Just a silence so clean it felt like the click of a lock. I set the phone down and lay back, eyes on the ceiling. In the quiet, I could hear the refrigerator hum, the upstairs neighbor's soft steps. A car door outside. The night stretched out like a blank page. I slept hard for the first time in months. Morning arrived as a square of light on the floor and the smell of coffee waiting to be made. I padded to the kitchen, turned on the kettle, and opened my curtains. The street looked washed, a delivery truck, a dog tugging a man down the sidewalk, the bakery already stacking croissants in the case. My phone buzzed once, then again, then decided to sing without stopping. 6 missed calls from Sloan, 1 from Brad, no voicemails. The family group chat lit up with bubbles marching in order, the way a storm rolls in over water. Sloan: "Did the bank mess up or did you cancel the transfer?" Sloan again: "I need a straight answer. We have bills timed to that, Hillary." Brad: "We have a lease. That money covers real things." "You put us in a bad spot." Mom: "Can we talk about this calmly? This feels extreme." Sloan: You're punishing Miles because your feelings were hurt over a joke. He's a child. Cousin Elise, late to every party. Wait, what's happening? I set the phone face down and scooped fresh grounds into the press. The kettle hissed, then stilled. I poured slowly, watching the bloom of coffee rise and settle. The scent filled the room, warm and bitter and honest. I waited 4 minutes because patience, I've learned, makes things stronger. The screen kept vibrating under my palm, a trapped insect. I did not lift it. I buttered toast, cut an apple, and ate standing up with the window open. The air had a cool edge. The city had started its day, and so had I. When the calls shifted from ring to the harsher beat of insistence, I flipped the phone over to mute it. More messages had arrived. Paragraphs from Sloan, a careful sentence from Mom about family, not transactions, a half-formed threat from Brad about responsibility. None of them included the word sorry. The landline on my counter rang, a sound from another era. Only one person used it. I picked up. "Are you home?" Grandmother Evelyn asked. "Yes." "Good." Her voice was brisk, as if we were discussing the weather. "Clear your afternoon. I'm coming by." "Do I need to?" "No," she said. "Just coffee and a flat surface." The line clicked off. I looked around my small kitchen, the clean mugs, the bare table, the shoes drying by the door, and felt something steady inside me catch and hold. I rinsed the press, set out 2 cups, wiped the table with the side of my hand, and waited for a knock I already knew would be gentle and sure. Grandmother Evelyn knocked the way she always does. 2 light taps, a pause, then one more. I opened the door and she stepped in with her tote and a flat, worn envelope held against her chest like a book. She kissed my cheek, sniffed the coffee, and nodded toward the table I'd cleared. "Perfect," she said, setting the envelope down. "Flat surface." She slid her gloves off, loosened the little brass clasp, and turned the envelope over so its contents spilled in a careful fan. Bank statements, photocopied checks, printed emails, notes in her tidy blue script with dates and amounts underlined. She arranged them by month, the way a seamstress lays out a pattern. "I didn't tell you sooner," she said, "because I wanted to be very sure." Her fingertip moved down a column. "Utilities, 3 months running." Another page. "Daycare, twice." Another. "Car repairs for that man." She glanced up. "They came to me as if you were struggling. They went to you as if they were fine." I pulled a chair in and sat. The papers smelled faintly of ink and old paper, their edges dulled by living in a drawer. A name repeated, neat as a ledger heading, Sloan Whitmore. Amounts marched next to it like a quiet parade. "I thought I was the only one," I said. "You weren't," she answered. "And that's the point." She stacked a few sheets, squared their corners, and set them aside. "We are not going to argue with them. We're going to make a statement and act accordingly." She took out her phone, unlocked it, and typed with both thumbs. Quick, factual, almost musical. Then she turned the screen to me. The message was short. "I have stepped away from financially supporting anyone who thinks mocking Hillary is acceptable. If you've done nothing wrong, nothing changes. If you have, this is your moment to reflect." "Send?" she asked. I looked at her, then at the papers, then back at the simple line of text that said everything without raising its voice. "Send," she tapped. The whoosh of the group thread receiving it felt like a small door closing on a draft. We sat with our coffee, the steam rising, the documents like quiet witnesses between us. It took less than a minute for the phone to start jittering across the table. First Sloan, "Are you serious? Grandma, you're letting Hillary manipulate you." Then Brad, "This is extreme. We have bills because you encouraged a certain standard." Then my mother, measured, "Mom, can we discuss this privately? This isn't how we handle things as a family." Cousin Elise, "Wait, what happened?" Aunt Robin, "I'm confused. Are we cutting people off now?" Evelyn didn't pick up the phone. She lifted her cup and blew lightly over the surface. Predictable, she said, not unkindly. They'll make noise and call it dialogue. Another ping. Sloan again, longer this time. You're punishing a child for a joke. Hillary is being dramatic. We need that transfer today. We've arranged our payments around it. Evelyn set her cup down and finally took the phone. She typed 3 words. I won't discuss. Then she looked at the spread of papers, gathered a few into a new pile, and slid a pen from her tote. She wrote a date at the top of a fresh page, and under it, in her small, clear hand, made a list of names: Sloan, Brad, my mother, and a single word beside each: response. I'll be in touch soon, she said, capping the pen. There's more they need to learn. I felt the room steady around us. No raised voices, no pleading, just lines drawn with ink and intention. Another burst of messages rattled the phone, threats dusted as concern, urgency dressed up as love. Evelyn silenced the thread and tucked the phone under the edge of the papers. Let them shout into a pillow, she said. We are busy. She stood, smoothed the envelope flat, and slid the documents back into place. Keep the table clear, she added, slipping on her gloves. Next, we'll use a different kind of paper. What kind? I asked. The kind that doesn't blink, she said, and the door clicked softly behind her as she left. Monday, Evelyn arrived just after 10 with the same tote and a new folder. Thicker, heavier, labeled in her tidy block letters, Trust. She set it on the clear table like a chessboard. I went to the bank early, she said, removing her gloves, and to the clerk's office. She opened the folder. Inside were copies on cream paper, a deed, a trust agreement, tax receipts, a ledger of payments. She placed them in order and turned one toward me, a page ringed with seals and signatures. That house Sloan and Brad brag about, she said, tapping the line that mattered, was purchased by your grandfather and me, years ago. It sits in the Holloway family trust. I have been paying the property taxes, quietly. I read the names, not Sloan's, not Brad's, Holloway, not Whitmore. The air seemed to steady in my lungs. They said they owned it, I said. They occupy it, she answered. Ownership belongs to documents. I looked up. Why are you telling me this now? Because now, she said, sliding over a single-page notice with today's date, I've dissolved the trust. I blinked. You can do that? I already did, she said, with that small smile that never asked for permission. They have 30 days to purchase it outright, on standard terms, or vacate. The letter was sent certified this morning. Outside, a truck downshifted and moved on. Inside, the room felt quiet in a way that had weight. I touched the corner of the notice, felt the sharpness of new paper. They're going to call you cruel, I said. They'll call boundaries by any name that suits their appetite, she replied. Names don't change facts. She closed the trust folder and reached into her tote again, bringing out a small black flash drive. She set it between us the way a doctor places an X-ray. This is for the lawyer, she said, and for you to see once. I plugged it into my laptop. A file popped open. Living room light, a couch I recognized, Sloan curled with a glass of wine, Brad with a bottle, Miles on the rug with a game controller. The sound came in clear. Brad's voice, pleased with itself. Let her keep sending money. She's starving for approval. Sloan laughed. Exactly. Smile and nod till Grandma's gone. Miles looked up, eager to belong. Dad says her shoes are fake. Sloan leaned down, ruffled his hair. No, baby, she's real. Just real dumb. My hand found the touchpad and froze the frame. Their faces, caught mid-laugh, hung in the stillness. In the background, a lamp made a soft circle on the wall. I stared until the edges of the image went slightly out of focus. Evelyn didn't rush me. She watched my face, not the screen. When I pressed play again, the room on the video filled with more of the same. Small meannesses dressed as family humor, the plan to keep the money flowing, the easy way they said my name. I closed the file and ejected the drive. My chest felt both lighter and more anchored. Where did you? From the person who installed their security system, she said simply. They were careless with cloud backups. The important thing is that it exists, and it's admissible. We sat a while, the flash drive between us like a period at the end of a long sentence. A breeze nudged the curtain. A car alarm chirped once and went silent. They will say you made me do this, Evelyn said, packing the documents with neat hands. So hear me clearly. I am doing this. I have my reasons. You have your peace. I nodded. The words landed where they needed to land. Doubt had been noisy for years. Now, with paper and pixels on the table, it had nothing left to say. When do we see the lawyer? I asked. Soon, she said, slipping the flash drive into its case. But first, eat something. Anger runs hot. Action needs fuel. She stood, and the folder's clasp clicked shut, a small, clean sound that felt like the start of the clock. We met Mr. Aldridge the next afternoon in an office that looked like it had never once raised its voice. Books lined the walls in straight-backed rows. He rose, shook Evelyn's hand like an old colleague, and gave me a steady nod. Let's see what we have, he said. I slid the flash drive across the desk. He plugged it in, watched the video once with his hands folded, then again with a legal pad in front of him. He didn't interrupt. He let the words hang in the room the way they had hung in my head. Clear, mean, unforced. When it ended, he capped his pen. They won't win, he said simply. This is not a close call. He outlined the plan in clean steps. First, he would formalize Evelyn's notice dissolving the trust and file confirmations with the clerk. Second, he would prepare letters to Sloan and Brad, certified with return receipts, enclosing a copy of the dissolution and the 30-day demand to purchase or vacate. Third, he would draft a defamation warning to the family as a whole. Continued lies about competency or coercion would be documented and pursued. Finally, he would update Evelyn's estate documents with a no-contest clause. If anyone challenged the will, they would forfeit any residual gift. Quiet paper, he said, tapping the stack. It does more work than 100 arguments. We signed where he flagged, page after page, the pens moving like oars. When we finished, he printed the defamation letter and read it aloud in a level voice. The words were spare and final. No threats, only consequences. By evening, the first envelopes were on their way, tracking numbers logged, signatures required. While Aldridge's assistant clicked through shipping forms, my phone lit with a new wave of messages from Sloan. You turned Grandma against us. This is elder abuse, Hillary. We're calling a lawyer. Then, we found her will. It names me for the house. You're barely mentioned. You should be ashamed. I set the screen down. Evelyn didn't sigh. She opened her tote and took out a small iron key I had never seen. Back home, she led me to her study, knelt by the bottom shelf, and pulled out a lockbox so old it had its own story. The key turned with a neat click. Inside lay a folder bound with a blue ribbon and a brass notary seal. She placed it in my hands. Dated 2 years ago, she said. Signed, witnessed, and filed. No one bullied me into anything, then or now. I read my name on the beneficiary line and felt the floor steady. They'll say you're impaired, I said. They can say it under oath, she replied, and they can read this letter from my doctor while they're at it. She produced a sealed statement, current to last month, attesting to her capacity. The next morning, Aldridge's emails hit the family accounts. Certified notices landed like small anchors in their mailboxes. Brad wrote first, "This is extreme. We relied on that support because you encouraged a certain standard. We'll pursue guardianship if we must." Aldridge answered from his address, not ours. "Any further harassment or defamatory claims will be preserved for action. Please direct all communications to my office. By afternoon, a cousin forwarded a screenshot from Sloane's private group. Talk of rallying relatives, of going public, of spinning the story until it sounded like love. Evelyn didn't engage. She had me print the no contest clause on heavy stock and initial every page. She initialed too, steady as ever. She'll waive an old will again, I said. She can waive whatever she finds, Evelyn answered, returning the lockbox to its shelf. The only document that matters is the one that holds when someone knocks. That night, we stood in her kitchen with mugs of tea while the printer in the next room spit out certified copies. The house was quiet but not fragile. It felt like a place built for weather. Law isn't thunder, Evelyn said, listening to the steady whir. It's rain. It falls where you point the gutter and runs exactly where you plan. Outside, a delivery truck idled and rolled away. Inside, envelopes cooled on the table beside a tidy list of tracking numbers. The clock in the hall ticked. The plan moved forward without noise. The first knock came at dusk, hard enough to set the picture frames humming. Evelyn checked her door camera on the tablet and angled it so I could see. Sloane on the porch in a sweatshirt, Brad behind her with his jaw set. "Open the door, Grandma," Sloane called, high and bright like a game show host. "We just want to talk." Evelyn pressed the intercom. "You're being recorded," she said, even. "Please direct all communication to Mr. Aldridge." Brad leaned forward, finding the lens. "We'll get guardianship if we have to." "Good evening," Evelyn said, and ended the call. A minute later, the clip uploaded to her cloud account without our help. We set the tablet down and let the house be quiet again. The group chat flared, died, flared again. Cousins and aunts dragged their chairs to the edge of the digital stage to watch. Sloane posted a long screed about manipulation, about how I had isolated Evelyn. 2 replies in, a cousin I hadn't heard from since college forwarded me a screenshot from a private thread. "They're going public," she wrote. "You should know what's coming." Evelyn didn't chase it. She opened her brown envelope instead, slid out the typed transcript from the video, and sealed 6 copies in plain mailers, addressed to the loudest relatives. No caption, no lecture, just facts with postage. "They can form their own opinions," she said, this time with both eyes open. By day 4, the temperature in the family changed. The messages that used to come hot arrived lukewarm and crowded with ellipses. Aunt Robin wrote, "I didn't know they said those things about you, Hillary." My mother sent, "Your sister is very upset. Perhaps we all need to cool off. No apology. Not yet." But the wind was no longer blowing in one direction. On day 7, certified cards came back to Aldridge's office with Sloane's and Brad's signatures. The 30-day clock started in ink. Brad emailed the lawyer, "We need time. The market is impossible." Aldridge replied, "The terms are in the notice. You may purchase or vacate by the deadline." He attached the ledger of taxes Evelyn had carried for years. The numbers said more than anyone wanted them to say. Day 9 brought another knock at Evelyn's door. This time, Sloane cried without sound while Brad pointed a finger at the camera like it was a judge. "You'll regret this," he mouthed. Evelyn saved the clip and texted me a single word, "Documented." On day 12, I woke to the growl of a truck on Sloane's street. A neighbor sent a photo, 2 men in work gloves carrying out a sectional sofa. A caption followed, "Looks like they're staging for appraisal." By afternoon, more photos arrived. Closet rods bare, a stack of banker's boxes by the garage. Miles's bicycle leaning against the porch rail as if it were listening. The family thread went quiet in the way a room goes quiet when someone drops a glass and no one knows whether to laugh. At dinner, my mother called with a voice pitched toward sympathy. "Your sister is overwhelmed," she said. "This isn't what family is." "It's exactly what documents are," I said, and kept my voice even. Day 15, Brad's sedan left the driveway with a suitcase wedged in its mouth. No one waved. That night, Sloane posted a black square and a caption about betrayal that didn't name anyone and named us all. Cousin Elise, the one who never arrives on time, DM'd me a single sentence. I always wondered why you kept to yourself at holidays. Now I get it. On day 22, Aldridge forwarded a last attempt from Brad. Your client is ruining our lives over a misunderstanding. Aldridge's answer was a paragraph long and bone dry. My client is enforcing terms you agreed to by occupancy. Future correspondence should be limited to logistics. Day 29, the porch stood empty except for a dent in the mailbox where a fist had tested metal. A neighbor sent one more photo, the for sale sign down, the lawn clipped, the windows dark. I looked at it without triumph. The feeling was simpler, a knot loosened. That night, Evelyn and I sat in her living room with the tablet dark and the doorbell quiet. Paper did the work, she said, almost to herself. And the camera, I said. She nodded. And your silence, she added. That was the part they didn't expect. The morning after the porch stood empty, Mr. Aldridge sent a final email to the list of relatives who had written him long and loud. The subject line read, Notice of Finalization. The body was brief, confirmations filed, trust dissolution completed, 30-day window closed, no contest clause active. He added a single sentence that belonged in stone. Further defamatory statements will be documented and pursued. Evelyn read it once and nodded. That's the end of that, she said, as if closing a window before rain. Rumors tried one more lap online. Sloane posted a paragraph about loyalty and keeping elders safe. Brad hinted at legal moves. My mother, careful as ever, typed a status about how money poisons families, and then deleted it before anyone could comment. The cousins who had once warmed their hands at drama sent me cautious messages about seeing all sides. I didn't answer any of them. Silence did what it had done all along, cut the shape of the truth without leaving fingerprints. A courier delivered the last certified packets to Evelyn's house that week. Inside each was the updated summary of her will and the notarized no contest clause on heavy cream stock. She initialed every page with the same even hand. When we finished, she slid the copies into a blue folder and set it in the lockbox. The key turned with a clean click. Tea? She asked, as though we had just finished a puzzle. We drank it at the kitchen table with the afternoon sun warming the wood. The house felt unburdened, like a room after someone opens a window that had been painted shut for years. No one knocked. The tablet stayed dark. I could hear the low, steady tick of the hallway clock and the small sound the refrigerator makes when it's doing its job. 2 days later, a neighbor texted me that movers had come back for the last items: Miles's bicycle, a set of dumbbells, a lamp with a crooked shade. The for sale sign, briefly posted for show, was gone. The lawn was trimmed, the blinds were shut. It looked like a house pausing between stories. My mother called that night. Her voice was careful, then softer than I expected. Your sister is in a difficult place, she said. I don't know how to help. You could start with the truth, I said, and kept my tone level. There are words that do not need echo. We said goodbye without arguing. It wasn't peace between us, not yet, but it was quiet. Evelyn kept her routine. Salon on Thursday. Groceries on Saturday. On Sunday, she made pot roast and set 2 places, then 3 when I arrived with rolls. We ate and talked about the roses in the neighborhood and a new bakery that made sourdough with a good crackle. When the plates were cleared, she took me to her study and pulled out a thin envelope addressed to me in her neat hand. For later, she said. Not for worry, for clarity. I put it in my bag without opening it. The gift was not the paper. It was the steadiness that had produced it. Weeks passed. The calls slowed to practical questions, forwarding addresses, last pieces of mail, a school form misdirected. I answered what needed answering. I ignored what did not. In my own apartment, the evenings stretched out like newly discovered rooms. I cooked simple food, watered a plant that had wilted from my neglect, and slept without the old jumpy dreams. One night near the end of spring, I sat on my balcony with my feet up and the city lights spread like a map. The air was warm and held the faint smell of cut grass. My phone lay face down on the table and stayed that way. I thought of the dinner that began all this, the soda on my shoes, the laugh that cut the room, and the bench under the heater where Evelyn had said what no one else would say. They will call it revenge, I thought. They already had. But revenge was loud and quick. This had been quiet and exact. Boundaries drawn in ink. Truth printed on paper that didn't blink. A lockbox. A key. Evelyn stepped out to the balcony with 2 glasses of water. "You look lighter," she said. "I am," I answered. She glanced at the skyline, then at me. "Some people need thunder to hear," she said. "We gave them weather." I smiled. The word I had been circling finally settled where it belonged. Not sharp anymore, just true. They called it revenge. Evelyn called it correction. I call it freedom.